Welcome to the Carnage Count. We round up the kills in all our favorite scary movies. Today we're looking at Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, released 1 year after Friday the 13th, a new beginning that had disappointed fans everywhere. Jason Lives is an interesting entry, not only as the conclusion to what you could and should call the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, but because it marks a tonal shift in the series. Again, don't expect it to stray from the masked guy kills teens at a summer camp one by one template too much, but writer-director Tom McLaughlin sought to play around more within this framework, and the result is a much more self-effacing, ironic and humorous film than parts 1 through 5. Also, obviously, Jason is back. A series centered around Roy Burns will remain one of history's biggest what-ifs, but the people spoke and they clamored for Jason. So here we have Tommy Jarvis played by a new guy who's not as hunky but who's much more of a functional human being. He and his wisecracking buddy resurrect Jason with lightning like he's Frankenstein's monster or something, and for the rest of the movie and the series, Jason is now a supernatural being. He will never again be the lumbering mentally deficient oaf shambling a pickaxe with a pillowcase on his head. He is a new and arguably more iconic being now. Jason is dead. Long live Jason. Anyway, I hear dying leaves you starving for killing, and Jason's got quite the appetite, so let's get him a menu for the kills. The movie begins with Tommy and his friend Hawes, who didn't even want to be there in the first place. They dig up Jason's grave and reason why. Tommy has a past of trauma, so he cremates him by stabbing him with a fence post. The lightning strikes the post and resurrects him from the dead. Jesus, zombie Jason looks so menacing in the shadows. Tommy Boy tried gasoline to ignite him but it rains. Hawes later bludgeoned Jason with a shovel to save Tommy, but melty skull Jason punches right through his body, ripping his heart out through his back and revealing some nails in serious need of a manicure. Don't be afraid of self-care, Jason. Tommy escapes the scene and we get a huge clue into the tone of this movie with the fucking James Bond parody intro to the credits. Post-credits picks up the story right away with Tommy running to a police station and greeting Sheriff Garris, a very charming guy. Tommy winds up in a cell for sounding crazy with all his Jason talk, kinda like someone else we know. They didn't believe me. Now we do. Ralph. Rest in peace. Then we meet a couple on their way to the newly renamed Forest Green Lake and you know they gon' die. In a line predictive of Scream a decade later, the woman Lizbeth is aware of the rules of horror movies, but that doesn't stop husband Darren from getting out of the car like a dumbass. Jason takes a bullet like a pro and spears Darren through the chest before tossing him behind his back like a ragdoll. I'd love to see Yuppie spear and toss as an official Olympic event. Lizbeth tries to bribe Jason, which is definitely a first, but he kinda teleports away and reappears behind her, impaled her mouth in a puddle with his spear. Fun fact, Lizbeth was played by Nancy McLaughlin, the director's wife. Even more fun is the fact that her credit card floating away says American Excess. Cheesy pun or biting cultural commentary? Jason kills, you decide. We finally meet our core group of camp counselors after this. They're super 80s and led by the vulgar sheriff's spunky daughter Megan, who takes an immediate liking to Tommy. And this new Tommy actually reacts like a human being. Remember New Beginning TJ? Yeah, that guy probably would have tried to strangle her between those prison bars. We also meet Martin the Gravedigger, who I'm guessing is Crazy Ralph's cousin or something, and he actually one-ups Lizbeth's self-aware line by speaking to the fucking audience. Yeah, that's how meta this movie is. It breaks the fourth wall. Martin is also involved in a good editing joke. That's what I mean about the tone of this movie being different. And also note, there are actually kids at the camp. That's a first, too. Then we get one of those scenes with random characters who are just there to die. It's like the Greasers with Car Trouble or the Biker Gang in Part 3. It's almost like a sketch or vignette that exists only to increase the body count. This time it's a group of corporate execs on a paintball retreat, which sounds like a much better company outing than a picnic or barbecue. Everyone involved is kind of a wacky character, but whatever, Jason's gonna kill them all immediately. First up is Burt, an angry fella who doesn't do a great job masking his misogyny. Jason whips him into a tree first so hard he leaves an imprint. People especially me like the smiley face. It's so funny. Meanwhile the sole woman on this expedition, Katie, is being a badass and taking out Stan and Larry, two guys who may be a little bit more than just co-workers. She makes them wear some pretty meta headbands before Jason drops in and takes them all out at once with a triple decapitation. This was one of the kills censored a lot by the MPAA. Early versions apparently had the heads falling into frame. Shame we missed out on that. The sequence ends with Roy, the final paintballer and human embodiment of Bugs Bunny, running away with Jason hot on his trail. Don't worry, we'll catch up with him later. In another change of tone for the series, we get kind of an action scene as Tommy continues trying to convince law enforcement that he's not crazy. He doesn't succeed and instead learns how much of a douchebag Deputy Rick is. Yeah, Rick, you gonna try to make your own catchphrase? Yeah bang, okay. While the camp counselors like Cort try to entertain their campers, grave-digging Martin gets drunk and delivers ironic lines. It's ironic because Jason stabs him with a broken liquor bottle. Get it? Like, it actually was the death of him? It's not bad, it's a pretty good joke. Jason makes sure he's dead by hacking him up a bit more, then looks super fucking scary when he stops and notices Steven, some fool who was out picnicking with his fiancée Annette in the middle of the goddamn night. Jason eventually chases them both down and double impales them with his machete for a twofer. These two deaths and Martins were added after feedback from early screenings saying there weren't enough kills, so, thanks test audiences, the movie gives us a breather with a little bit of standard camp stuff. A little girl says she saw Jason and is all afraid. The counselors make reference to Jason the Legend using a card game, and then we're in a Winnebago where Cort and some girl named Nikki have PG-13 sex to 80s hair metal. Another fun fact for ya, this is actually the only Friday the 13th film without any nudity. Although, now that I say it, it doesn't sound very fun. No nudity, but there is a lot of hair metal in this movie. 3 Alice Cooper songs, 3 of them, including one that had a music video heavily featuring Jason. The 80s were weird, man. Cort's lady lover Nikki is killed while he's driving obliviously, having a good time. Jason slams her face through the trailer's tin walls in a resemblance to that one SpongeBob frame, where SpongeBob and Patrick runs into a wall and still manages to make ghost noises. Reason why I brought that up is because, SpongeBob, yeah, I like SpongeBob. Also I got off track. What was this video about again? Oh, Jason lives. Okay, Jason then takes care of Cort with a knife through the head. I like to think he stabbed him in the ear as a favor so he wouldn't have to listen to any more hair metal. With Cort dead at the wheel we get another action sequence. Like I said, this movie's a little different, adding humor and 80s action movie tropes. Here we have a sweet vehicle flip and Jason looking like a badass on top of a burning RV. This awesome shot was the last thing they filmed for the movie, and I think it's pretty damn cool. The cops find that paintballer Roy's dismembered body, so now we finally get to add Roy to the body count, pushing the kills to an even baker's dozen. Yummy. It's the best way to order your victims. While the cops suspect Tommy for this morbid murder because he's crazy or whatever, Jason finally gets to the camp, and although he seems a little confused by both the name change Camp Forest Green and the morals it upholds, he marches in, ready to be as friendly and sportsmanlike as he can be, which, for him, means tanking Counselor Sissy out of her window and twisting her head around. Gotta give this movie credit, despite the ratings board trying to censor it, it was always trying to come. Megan picks up Tommy and in another high-energy car chase to another Alice Cooper song, tries to avoid the cops while Tommy stares at her crotch. They eventually get caught by her father and Tommy's put back in the jail cell, while at Camp Forest Green Jason stalks Paula, the last remaining fodder counselor, and eventually kills her after they do what I presume to be some kind of art project involving buckets of red paint. Tommy and Megan craft a sexy plan to get him out of jail, and they lock up Deputy Dipshit in his place, who gives the worst single-line performance in the series. They then race back to camp as Jason leans in to look at that cute little scared praying girl. But don't worry, he's not gonna kill a kid. They're not gonna have Jason kill a kid. Guys, you're welcome. The cops get to the camp and find Jason's abstract art project. Then the handsome one gets killed when Jason throws a freaking dart into his face, knocking him into a boat. You see that knife toss? Man, I bet Jason is a great hustler at Renaissance fairs. Another cop tries to calm the little girl before Jason pops up out of nowhere and crushes the guy's skull. Another kill highly censored, although the sound design is pretty nice. Papa Sheriff then tells the kids to hide and they prove that they're just as snarky as everyone else in this movie. Sheriff Garris finds the body of Officer Expendable, then has a badass standoff with Jason before shooting him a whole bunch of times. Like, a lot. This movie is the first time Jason's been shot and he shows that it is not an effective way to take him down. Despite the sheriff's competency, he meets his end like any sexed up teen in the woods when Jason chases him down and cracks his spine in half, folding him over like a plastic picnic table. Sheriff Garris is actually the first character in this series whose death made me kinda sad. I wanted to see this guy live. He was smart and a good dad and wicked funny. Rest in peace, Sheriff. The rest of the movie is Tommy and Megan hatching his master plan to kill Jason by calling him mean names. Just kidding, his plan is to return Jason to the bottom of the lake by chaining a boulder onto him. Also he lights Crystal Lake on fire like it's Lake Erie in the 80s. Despite also getting lit on fire, Jason fights back for a bit before the boulder drags him down. After almost drowning Tommy too, Megan saves the day by introducing Jason's head to a boat motor, cracking his neck and giving us some nice gory flotsam to show Jason's finally dead. Just kidding, his eyes open at the end because producers like money. More Alice Cooper plays us out to the credits, and there you have it. Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Let's count the kills. Jason kills 18 people in Friday the 13th Part 6, twice the number of his initial outing in Part 2, so guys come a long way. His Vicks include 12 guys and 6 girls, a gender imbalance of 2:1, which kinda goes along with the whole 80s action style of the film. At 85 minutes long, that comes out to a kill every 4.72 minutes, so that should keep you entertained as you search in vain for T&I'll give the Excellent Execution Award for Coolest Kill to Sheriff Garris. Although I like the triple decapitation and Sissy's gnarly head twist, but Garris goes out fighting for his daughter like a G, and gets a sickening backwards body bend I can't help but love. Lamest kill goes to Paula, who's killed mostly off-screen, although I've gotta admit that none of the kills here were completely matched with Paula's kill. Like, that's a lot of blood. That honestly looks fun. And that's it y'all. With this movie finished, we are now halfway through this series. Holy crap. Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, which many fans consider their favorite because of its humor, was released in 1986, written and directed by Tom McLaughlin, who does deserve some credit for doing something interesting with the material. Next up will be Carrie vs. Jason in Part 7, The New Blood, which is also the introduction of Kane Hodder as Jason. But until then, this has been the Carnage Count.